Welcome. The jazz of psychology brings you to a dose of psychology and everyday life mix with a twist in the ugly side of psychology, the awakening. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Psychology can also be called the Matrix. Give it a moment and you'll see why. The thing with psychology is that it is like a double-edged sword. As many advantages as it has, it can also be slightly unsettling. Yes, it works for the benefit of the people. Yes, it is able to help us understand each other better. But, of course, there is a but. Psychology users are granted a superpower and are able to see the truth. Psychology sees through all of the facade that people put up through much effort. We're not talking about fake pictures on Instagram. We're talking about something deeper here. Each person has their background and their story. For someone who understands how psychology works and is able to use it, it becomes quite difficult to interact with people the same way as before. Once they are able to see everyone's problems clear as day, they become conflicted. Psychology does not truly give advice, because that is not what it does. Psychology is a guide. It gives people the knowledge and the understanding of how things work, leaving the decision-making completely in their hands. As mentioned before, psychology does not judge people, but it does categorize them. Anyone who has ever done any of the "see which type you are" tests knows that. Those types exist because people exist. Psychology was able to build that database of various types because it studied the variety of people to learn about those differences. Psychology uses an extensive range of terms to describe certain groups of people and certain mindsets. However, that is not the point of this post. But for the sake of the argument, there will be two categories used in this and future posts: a weak mindset and a strong mindset. Allow to elaborate. A weak mindset is the kind that is easily influenced by the masses, is immature, usually lacking in willpower and self-awareness. At times it displays a busy bee personality, with an activity-overflowing lifestyle, as quantity is valued above quality. As a result, this type has difficulty processing new information provided, because their brain is too busy trying to keep up with their packed physical activity. But more on that another time. On the other hand, a strong mindset is the kind of mindset that is able to observe, analyze, process, and adapt the information provided. A strong mindset is self-aware, emotionally mature, can be socially withdrawn at times, and lacking in physical activity, because quality is valued more than quantity. But more on that in later posts. Right now, let's circle back to why psychology has an ugly side too. That is the point of this post, after all. Once a person is able to see through others' facades, an internal conflict is born. Nobody likes a know-it-all. Because people with a weak mindset will understand feedback and analysis as well as insight, as in guidelines, and not advice as criticism. That is why psychology users will use this term instead of psychologists, because that is more accurate for the purpose of this blog. So, that is why psychology users withdraw themselves from certain social circles instead of attempting to share their knowledge and analysis. Most of the time, weak mindsets are unable to accept different opinions and believe that their actions, way of thinking, and beliefs are correct, just because. As a result, it becomes difficult to interact with them, as anything that is different can and will be, chances are, perceived as an attack, which is not the case at all. But again, more on that later in the series, the versus, the differences between. In order to avoid conflict, psychology users choose to remain silent, which does not always end well either. Because people have a need to know why they are being given the silent treatment, thus causing a different conflict. Sadly, there is no way out of this scot-free, unless the people in question are of a strong mindset. If that is the case, then there is hope to be heard and understood in the intended way. Of course, it's not exactly smooth sailing here either. But at least there is hope. A strong mindset will, at least, hear what the psychology user has to say before answering. Best case scenario, they will take some time to sleep on it. In the end, It all comes down to the ability to listen and understand. Psychology is a blessing and a curse. It can help, and yet, at the same time, it forces us to see things that some of us hide so strongly or do not even realize about ourselves in the first place. It takes a strong mindset to be able to withstand the awakening within the matrix and to continue living in it, because once seen, it cannot be unseen. As mentioned before, psychology is a team effort. A person may not be a graduate of it, but to be able to use it well, they require to have a certain capacity within their operating system nonetheless. That is why psychology struggles to make its grand entrance into our lives the right way. You have reached the end of this post. Thank you for listening, and remember, mental health is important too. Take care.